Get some.
I don't know about the rest of you. I'm still surprised when it actually works. All right. So thank you all for giving us an audience. We've got several members of the team over here, and thanks for including us. It's great to be able to talk with you. I do have some PowerPoint slides. I promised that I would not PowerPoint you to death on this, so I'm going to try to keep it fairly short. Leave most of the time for you to ask us questions, and we'll just we'll be as candid with you as possible. So we were formed in this last summer. What I want to cover with you is who we are and why we formed the team in the first place, or why the team was formed in the first place. And I also want to give a couple of comments on what we don't do, because I feel like it's with the news articles that have been out, there's some room for interpretation. People make some guesses, and that can cause a little bit of confusion. So maybe this will help. That's our goal. Who we are, these 10 people, no, I'm not expecting you to read through every little thing, but what you'll see is that we have 3 deans, 3 faculty members, 3 staff members, and 1 student. One of the students is ex officio. One of the faculty members is ex officio. They're there in their role as the president of the SA and as the University Senate's Agenda Committee chair. Ex officio, but they're very much they're critical. Actually, I would say they're probably our MVPs. But these are the reason we're set up this way is because it regards what it is that SAET actually tries to do here. So why was the team created in the first place? Right now, there's kind of an issue if students want to stage a demonstration, they want to go talk to somebody and have guidance or advice. Now, we're not saying, let me be clear, this is not set up to be a clearinghouse for people that want to demonstrate or protest. I mean, there are some universities where they say, if you want to stage a demonstration, you got to go through this particular office. That's not us. But we want to be there in case somebody does want to talk to us and say, hey, can we organize some space on the quad, or can we do something on the lawn facing out towards towards Starbucks or something along those lines. We do want to be available to folks, help them with their rights and responsibilities in case they have questions on that, which is why we have good representation from the student experience side. There's also students may want to seek change at Syracuse within our policies, within certain things here, and they don't know who to go to affect that change. And yes, demonstration and protest is one way for advocating, but they might not want to do that. They might simply want to ask some questions and be able to have their voices heard. If you've got good connections through the university and you've got faculty champions, and that's great, use them. That's perfectly fine, but not everybody does. And so this is a matter of trying to promote a bit more equity to give people a place to go to. So, I don't understand why we have such and such procedure. How do I go about getting that changed? Why is it in place? We're not a channel that people have to go through. We're an option that's available to people if they have those questions. It's important that students not have to go, it's important for students to have somebody that knows how the system works, that can get in touch with the right folks without having to go all the way up to people who might be threatened by that change. And so we kind of sit in that sense between the students and the upper administration so that we can operate autonomously, knowing how these systems work, but without being beholden to one side or another. And this something else that we do is we listen for possible issues, and we're trying to be much more proactive about that. When issue comes up, who's applying that pressure to get a quick response? And that's happened a couple of times this semester. So if there is a protest, and it's not our goal to try to end the protest as quickly as possible. We are a response team, yes, but what we find is that there needs to be some people who have the expertise and the time and the interest and the capacity to be able to fully listen to these questions and to fully understand what the students are trying to say, because sometimes there's miscommunication. And with a team of 10, we feel like we've got enough coverage of the different corners of the university that we have a better chance of being able to understand those students' concerns. That's the gap we're trying to address. Now, to be able to do that, we're really going to have to be able to be in touch with students on a regular basis. That's having that contact is very important so that we understand what those concerns are. The original charge was therefore to be able to help students to say, where do they go if they want to express concerns about policies or conditions at Syracuse, or like I mentioned before, if they wanted to provide, if they wanted guidance regarding how to protest or how to demonstrate, and if they're trying to understand how this machinery works. And I'll tell you, it's complicated because I've been here just about a year and there's still a couple of things that I don't know myself. Then again, that's why we have a team of 10. All right. I put in a few words about who we're not. We don't go in to try to manage a protest. And we say that we meet every week. We probably have, I think conservatively, 2 hours of conversation among our team members at a minimum every week. And one thing that comes up like clockwork every week is we aren't protest managers. That's not what we do. We're not even here to try to stop protest from happening. That's not what we want. Students have, I'm going to read that. Students have the right to assemble and express their ideas. Now, we may be in a position to make conditions so that students don't need to protest. And that is something that we've been told very many times. One of my colleagues on the faculty said, the goal of your group should be to make it so that your group does not need to exist. I appreciate that perspective. We're not adjudicators of conduct, meaning that we're not there to say who is doing right and who is doing wrong and who's going to get what punishment. We are there to let students know if they're crossing a line to say, hey, you can protest, but these are your rights and responsibilities. Make sure you're not doing such and such. Now, if people are crossing the line and they do so intentionally, and this is part of what the protest is, and this is how they're trying to get attention, so be it. That's not something that we're there to manage, but we did want to be there to keep people from getting into trouble accidentally, I guess, just to put it bluntly. And most importantly, we are not adversaries of students, and hopefully everything I've said has tried to convey that. But we're trying to help. We're trying to give the tools that students need, and we're trying to improve communication and how we engage with students. All right. I tried to keep that as briefly as I could. There's some contact information. You can always contact me directly or any of our SAET members. Let me stop the screen sharing right over here and open it up to any kind of questions. You can ask them of me or any of the other SAET members that happen to be around. This is actually a lot like the classes that I teach these days. Try to get a little bit of discussion, and then I watch as I successfully put an entire class to sleep. So I'm glad I can do this in the afternoon just as easily as I can do it in the mornings.
Yeah, Josh, you can go first.
You go, all you if you got. I can go though, whatever you want. Hi, I'm Josh Hubseltzer. I'm our parliamentarian this year. Thank you for coming to present to us. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to learn more about your team. I guess, can you start off by talking a little bit about, it was created this summer, what conversations went in, and maybe Justine, you can talk about this a little bit more. What conversations with student government? I know over the summer, there's not many of us to talk with, but what conversations went with like talking to students and student stakeholders in creating this team?
I would like, so Justine, you were addressed on it. Do you want to start or do you want me to start? Either one's fine with me.
I could share my answer because it's brief. I was aware of this team when Amanda Nicholson reached out to me and kind of told me about the team, what its purpose was for, and asked me to join. So that's how I knew about this.
And Josh, from our perspective, your question was what kind of conversation went into talking to the students about the creation of this team, and is that correct?
Yeah, and just like including them in the process of building and creating what the job of this team will be.
I'll try to be as straightforward and blunt with you all as possible. We knew that this team was being created, but this was an initiative that was created, led by the provost. And so the composition of this team was, for lack of a better term, handed down to us. Now, I don't want to say, I hate saying that because it sounds like, hey, it wasn't my fault. They just gave it to us. No, I can express the rationale, though. The rationale is that we should have a team of faculty and staff leaders who can get involved, people that deal with students on a daily basis, that have shown, hopefully who have demonstrated a commitment to students. Talking with student matters, because what happened last year, and I don't want to frame this all around what happened in 2019 and 2020, but it was informative. It was informative because you had people in the upper administration that were doing their best to try to address a situation where they deal with students a little bit less frequently than, say, deans and professors and staff members do. So the idea would be, hey, if we have expertise on campus, if we have a student, the leader of the student association, and we have faculty and staff leaders, why don't we have them be involved at a first level rather than taking this straight to people that might not have the expertise? Does that help a little?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess just as a follow-up, I'm interested to hear that this came from the provost's office. I don't know why I had assumed it came from student experience. And so I guess I guess to me, that makes it sound like this is more of for an academic purpose, an educational purpose to complement a student. Like if a group of students decide to protest, you are there for the educational side of talking about how can we go deeper, versus I know you did have a slide where you're talking more about the like helping navigate an advocacy side. I guess how do you see that breakdown? And if like you were to say the percentage of our work is educational, percentage of our work is to advocate, what would you say?
So I'll answer for me, and if any of my colleagues want to jump in, please do. So there is an educational side of this that here are the rules. Here's if you're advocating for change on this, hey, this isn't something we can control, or this is a faculty issue, or hey, no, you can get this. Here's who you could go ask. But I think there's a different side of it too, or two different sides that I point to. Every now and then there are going to be, student protest is a very much a time-honored tradition. It's going to happen. And I believe every now and then that somebody in the upper administration is trying to look at this and figure out how to manage this every now and then. And that's going to happen. It is better if there is a perspective that they listen to of people that are boots on the ground, and that's this SAET that understand this. So we're there not only to help the students, but also to help the upper administration every now and then understand, hey, this is normal, healthy protest. We need to, yes, they're in a building. Yes, it's after hours. No, this is not the right way to respond to this, or we can, what they're asking for is X, Y, and Z. I don't think it's a secret to the people here. I was in the negotiating room with Not Again SU last year, and I got a chance to talk to some of those students ahead of time. And it was very frustrating to hear what some of them were saying about, look, we agreed to X, the university thought we agreed to Y. One of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to bridge that gap. We're trying to understand. Now, that's not to trivialize it. There were deep, I'm not going to replay the whole thing, but there were certain things that, had we had better communication, would have been much easier to resolve in a lot less time and with a lot less heartache and pain. And it's not a matter of bad faith on the student side or the administration side, but that communication piece is very difficult if people are talking past each other. So we're educating ourselves. We're trying to educate the upper administration, and we're trying for the love of all things to make sure we're listening to students.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
And I see, Meredith, your hand up.
Yeah, so I think the other thing to provide some context is that the senior vice president for enrollment and student experience was Amanda Nicholson at the time. And so she, along with John Liu, created the team. And part of the reason the team was also created out of both of those areas. Enrollment and student experience is probably one of the largest staff-based areas on campus that directly deal with students and developmentally the way we deal with students, programs, activities. And then you have the academic side. And so part of it is symbolic of this is the group that is coming together to invest in a holistic experience for students. And while some of it is around the notion of protest and unrest, it's also, we're also here to help advocate. And so in a complex system like that, it's important to get both parties that are in charge of the largest areas and portfolios to kind of come together and put together resources. Because in that, for example, using space, we now have the ability to reach out directly to building managers and say, this building needs to stay open longer, students are in here. If there's something logistically happening, we reach out to Pete Sala's area, or we'll reach out and say, we need some yellow jackets to work this evening. So part of it was, if there's a consolidated way of helping meet the needs of students, and if a group can be charged to do that, we've all been given our marching orders. If something happens, we need to make ourselves available. Like, this is a top priority for the institution. So it's us working together to help so that everybody is involved in this process, and however we can assist, whether it's logistically, whether it's getting to the right stakeholders. Everybody who needs to be in the room who can make those decisions are already there making those decisions. So it's not the back and forth as much as it has been probably in the past.
Awesome. We actually had we have a question in the chat from Elliot. Will the position of student rep in the group be open next year, or will that always be the SA president?
So it is ex officio tied to the SA president. Doesn't mean that could not be changed. We are, as you might imagine, we are sailing this ship while we're building it. So if it makes more sense from the SA's perspective to say, hey, you know what, the president is a great person for this, but it might be better for us to have a designee, then I don't see why we couldn't talk about that. What we do want to do is to make sure that we have regular contact with the students, and if we don't understand what the situation on the ground is, then we're not doing our job. So we're actually looking for more engagement in the first place. So yeah, anyway, that's too long of an answer to a very simple question. That's what I specialize in.
Hi, I can add also that we've been really discussing the need or the desire to add a student advisory committee to sort of have more representation among students in terms of the conversations or the direction of the team. So that's another kind of way potentially that students will be able to engage with the team in the future as well. So it's worth thinking about.
Thanks, Bryce.
Hi, I have a question. Thank you guys for all being here. I just wanted to know if you guys have made connections to, let's say, DPS, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, OMA, for examples, and how that looks. Because I just wanted to know if you guys have made connections to those offices for clear reasons.
Sure, we have, and it's I don't know how much detail to go into, Brittany, but I'll simply say yes. And especially we did around the election time, because we wanted to make sure that if there were, again, this wasn't something where we were anticipating any sort of problem or anything along those lines, but we knew there would be a potential for some sort of demonstration or celebration or anything along those lines. We wanted to make sure that people were tolerant of student expression, and that we were looking out for safety, but safety with respect to having common sense in a historical time. I mean, just the same way that you saw people go out all over the country, we did not want folks out there saying, you're in a group that's too large and you have to break it up. Well, we just wanted to make sure that people were going to be out there with masks, with social distancing, and that it did not appear to be a show of force or anything along those lines. So those were our concerns just about trying to be proactive to maintain a safe situation without bringing into some of the, like you said, some of the clearly obvious problems that could have arisen.
Brittany, just as a point of clarification and information. So the cultural centers report to the area that I supervise. So all three of the cultural centers, fraternity and sorority affairs, student activities, student centers, and student programs. So by proximity to my relationship with the team and the working relationship that we have, Jorge Castillo is also a member of our activism engagement team as well. And he is the director of the LGBTQ Resource Center. So, you know, we are constantly in relationship with areas that are heavily student facing and student centered.
All right, Max had a question up next.
Yes, I just have a simple question because I'm a first year, so I obviously didn't experience whatever demonstrations were going on earlier this year. I'm just a little bit confused, and maybe you can clarify this for me, because during the presentation, you talked about what your role was and what you were meant to do. It seemed like at some points your role was to enforce, at other points your role was to communicate. And I'm just wondering, so in a pre-COVID era, like for example, the past demonstration that people were removed from Kraus, what would this SAET exactly have done during that? If SAET existed during that protest, what would have happened differently?
So that's a great question, and I'm going to offer my opinion on it. And I'm going to preface this by saying that to be intellectually honest, none of us know. But I tell you a few things that we would have done immediately. So with respect to what happened in November, I think that a few things would have happened differently. Now, one of the big problems in November was that we had this racial graffiti on campus, and there were the speed with which this was brought out to the students was well, not to students, to everybody, was very slow. And I don't understand why, and I'm not in a position to guess, but if there are 10 of us and some of us find out that, hey, this is an issue, we need to get on top of this. We understand the sensitivities a little bit better than some of the other people that might be in charge of communications or some of the other decision makers on campus. We understand. So I believe that one of the first things is we may have been able to react more quickly, being a little bit more attuned to the mood on campus and to understanding student needs. Now, thinking about that, now that's speculative. Maybe we don't find out anything about it. Maybe none of us, maybe nothing changes there, because there's only so much that realistically we'd be able to do. But if we did know, because that's sort of what happened, you know, without getting into details, I mean, that's sort of what happened a few times early this semester. Our team got on, and I really want to credit Justine for this, but our team got on a couple of issues very quickly. And we were able to communicate with different stakeholders very fast what was going on, and the issues were at least acknowledged and addressed same day, which is a lot different from what happened last November. In terms of responding to protest, I would refer mostly to what happened in Crouse-Hines Hall. So you said you weren't here, but one of the issues was that the, students said that they were going to occupy Crouse-Hines Hall. The university asked them to leave because it's one of the buildings that closes at a certain time. Now, what you ended up with was two sides that were, that were having this debate and discussion and trying to go back and forth. And it's a very uncomfortable position for students, and it's a very uncomfortable position for upper administration to be engaging directly, because they don't necessarily understand each other's concerns. There's this threat of the same person that is trying to talk with the students is also in charge of disciplining the students, which is always a difficult position to be in. So what would have been different would be that the SAET would have been able to talk to the students, understand their concerns a little bit more crisply and and in more context, and be able to recommend to the university. Would we have gotten a fundamentally different response? I don't know, but there were without going through and reliving all of this, there were some responses from the university that, to put it diplomatically, Max, I don't think would have happened had there been an SAET in place saying, we understand what the students are doing here. We understand the kind of protest they're making. You need to give them a little bit more time, need to do X, Y, and Z. They are, they're simply not as knowledgeable with what the students' concerns are and what the protests are trying to accomplish than the people on this team would have been. So I don't want to give you platitudes to say, oh, it would have been completely different. I have no idea what would have happened. I do know that there would have been mistakes that that would have been avoided on the university side on that. I fully believe the SAT could have helped with that. I'm checking the chat over here because a few things came in.
Yeah, it was just a typo. I just had a quick question that was like kind of related. I think it was Josh that was saying it. It was a little bit farther back. I know that you keep like kind of mentioning how you communicate like with students and doing that. And I know that since it's kind of a relatively new office, what is the main way that you are communicating with students, especially with students that are wanting to protest about something? How is that communication done and like through what platforms?
Sorry, my screen just froze. Am I here? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Do you love that? The screen freezes and then 10 seconds later, Zoom tells you that your internet connection is unstable. I'm like, yeah, I noticed. The main way we hope, so we are, what we're doing right now is not how we want to communicate with students in the future, because right now we have done that on an ad hoc basis. So we've relied a lot, frankly, on Justine. We have relied a lot on what we're hearing on social media or what we hear from somebody, and that's just not a reliable way of being able to do it. So Bryce mentioned getting a advisory panel. I think that's a great idea. We also want to be proactive and get on people's calendars. So we've been spending the last couple of weeks or so trying to figure out, okay, what groups do you run in and what student groups can we attend on a periodic basis so that, so that we do what we're doing over here. And some of those conversations will be uncomfortable, but that's okay. I mean, it's where they're here. We need to understand what's going on. So we'll do a mixture of passive engagement where we're listening out for things, and then active engagement as well, where we're trying to pull in people to come talk to us and where we make ourselves available and can hopefully get on a couple of agendas as well.
So I'm a little curious what ties to the community this committee has. I know something that was big with the stuff we saw last year was the community was really involved with things going on campus. Obviously, our campus community and the local community are super tied together and interrelated. And a lot of things we see here go on there and vice versa. So if you could speak a little bit to maybe how if a protest did arise or some sort of student movement did arise, what would the community's involvement be? And maybe again, Maximus had a great question as well, but maybe what the role of the community would have been if we had seen this last year with Not Again SU.
Sure, Morgan. Can you clarify what you mean by community? Are you talking about the Syracuse community, Syracuse City community, or are you talking about the student population? I want to make sure that we answer that right.
Yeah, absolutely. So specifically the Syracuse City community and some of the leaders that are based out of there that have ties to our campus. So
I am blanking on the name of the office. I think it's Office of Community Engagement. Is that right? So this is Sydney Johnson's office. So we actually had a meeting with her and with several community leaders from the mayor's office and a few other people as well. It was right around the election. I mean, we did not know what would happen with reaction to the election, and we were concerned first and foremost about student safety. It's pretty much the only thing we've talked about for the last 3 or 4 weeks, with our concerns being 100% about safety. So we've engaged with the community there. They know that we exist at this point. That's a good first step. We know whom to contact over there. We know how to get in touch with them if there are immediate problems. We were pretty fortunate last year in that we were able to talk to the mayor's office to say, hey, We do have demonstrations on campus. We do have protests. They said, this can't keep going on. This is a dangerous area for people to be out. And so we were able to communicate that back and make sure that our students were taken care of without having any kind of run-ins with, with city officers or anything along those lines. I don't know how much more to go into detail on that, simply because I'm a little bit weak there. There might be some of my colleagues who could say more. Or I might have said absolutely everything that we know. If you're not live, I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads, so I think that might be the end of it.
I can say a little bit, and
Thanks for
then
bailing me out,
I've
Bryce.
got to jump off to read my daughter bedtime book. So I'll say something and then leave, and you should follow up if you have questions about it. But I think the group, at least as far as we can understand, was assembled because of connections that individual members have to not only different constituencies across campus, but also across the city. So, members of the SAET, I always get the letters wrong, but, we have, connected to, are in contact with groups like BLM Syracuse, some of the youth organizing groups. Some of us work, I work extensively with community centers, cultural centers across the city, in different kinds of creative and also educational support projects for students across the city. So I think, the kind of reliance upon team members' connections to networks that extend across campus, but also out and into the community to have regular contact with folks that are doing community organizing in other neighborhoods and other contexts is certainly present. I think if there were, I think Morgan is a really smart and absolutely right comment that the kind of boundaries that we imagine sometimes between the university and the communities surrounding the university are especially sort of permeable and complicated when it comes to activism and protest. And I think we definitely saw that last year with Not Again SU and with Black Lives Matter. It was one of the great sort of strengths of the movement. So in terms of our kind of individual members of the team's contact with those different groups and an awareness of kind of how to support across these contexts is absolutely a goal of the team. I think it's, I think this semester has really been about us kind of, as a team, it's only been a couple of months and we're trying to get a sense of who we are and what it is we do and, kind of defining ourselves to ourselves. And then I think from that point, both to Ella and Morgan's comments, then it's really about who to reach out to, have really solid lines of communication. And Morgan, I think the suggestion of having really solid lines of communication to different communities across the city, different organizations, groups across the city is a really important point. So I don't know if that helps at all or just muddies the water, but I'm going to get off now and read Percy Jackson. So
I was just going to ask what the book was tonight. Percy Jackson. She's
really into Greek mythology. So so we're going to do it. But thanks for having us. Good to meet you all. Sorry to jump off, and I hope the conversation continues to go well.
Thanks, Bryce. See you.
All right. I was actually just going to say, I think that was, do you guys have a time limit for how long you can be here or?
So I didn't set a time limit just because I know some people might have had questions and the presentation was kind of short. But if that was I just wanted everyone that had a question to get their question in.
Okay.
I don't have a life. I'm fine.
All right, and so I'm not seeing any other raised hands. This is the last call for questions.
I just have a quick comment / question. Unless someone else wants to talk, I would rather not talk twice if someone else has something they want to say.
You're good, Ella. Go ahead.
Okay. So I I'm losing track of what I was going to say. Oh yeah, so I was going to say, I think a question asked earlier was about, if other students can join, being part of it. I do think like as far as, kind of involving students and communicating and kind of defining your office as you move forward, I think it would be kind of smart to, if not put another undergraduate or another student, in the office and like on your board. To at least, maybe get involved with the different, chair members and cabinet members in SA at the very least. So I do think, other co-chairs like me, maybe other assembly members, I don't know, are pretty involved with the same kind of issues that your office is involved in. And I think we tend to encounter similar types of students that care about those issues. So I do think if you want to, us going forward, be involved and get be involved in the outreach of other undergraduates, which tend to be, the majority of the population that does stuff like that. I do think that would be, a good way to move forward. Because I do think, people in my position and in assembly and above tend to be the students that care the most and have access and ties to other students alike. So I do think going forward, that'd be something to consider.
That's a great suggestion. And I'm not just saying this because Peter Vanable's on the call here, but we need to reach out to some of our graduate student organizations as well, because yeah, we'll do that too. So I'm going to follow up with you on that just to explore that a little bit more, but that's an excellent suggestion, and we'll take you up on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was our last question. Do you guys have a specific contact line for the team itself, or is it just individual contacts?
So what probably the easiest way of doing this is to go through somebody that does our that coordinates for us. I'm trying to send something to everybody right now, but we have, so all panelists and attendees, that'll work. I'm going to send you my email so you can contact me, but probably the right person is up on, oh, no, it's not. Let me get Sarah's SL McAndrew. So SL McAndrew. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm going to tell you what, I'm not going to hold up your meeting. I'm going to put it up in the chat, the best way to get in touch with us over email. And then I will also give my email address personally in case you have a question for me specifically. Does that sound good?
Awesome.
Okay.
Perfectly fine with me. All right. Again, thank you guys very much for being here, for providing us with a lot of answers. This is an awesome initiative, and I can't wait to see what you guys do throughout the semester and beyond. So again, thank you very much, and have a great night.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we do have another public comment from Ethan Gromley from NIPERG.
Hey everyone, how we doing? Good to see you all. Not too much here. We, of course, coming back from Election Day. It feels like forever ago, but it was, really exciting atmosphere, definitely very political around campus. It was great. Our student voter helpline, which keep in mind was offered at a lot of different schools across the state, was really heavily utilized by SU and ESF students in comparison to a lot of our other colleges. And that's actually good. That means that they had the information, they could have their questions answered. We helped a lot of students find their polling location. If they had any issues, we helped solve them. But we didn't really see any major issues. It's just smaller stuff, and it was just a really, really exciting day. So right after, later in that week, we had the Zoom fatigue event that was all about like practicing mental health during all this strange, virtual campus life. And we just wrapped up a higher education investment educational event earlier today, talking about why we need to see more state aid to Syracuse University and to ESF, so that the burden of paying for college doesn't fall on you and your families. So on Friday, this is our big last thing for the semester, we think, is our virtual student empowerment conference. It's from noon to 6 p.m. It should be really, really fun. There's 3 different panels, one at noon, one at 2, and one at 4. You can go to one or all of them. The one at 2 is going to feature some elected officials that are leaders in the New York State scene, and they will be interviewed by student journalists from across the state. And it'll be really cool. So definitely check it out. You can RSVP and get the link at our Instagram at NYPIRG_SUESF. And last thing is that we are really starting to build our internship team for next semester. So if you are interested in participating in civic engagement and activism for credit, let me know. It's a great team. It's really fun, and yeah, so looks good in your resume. So you can just reach me at syracuse@nypirg.org, and or just follow us on Instagram. But that's all I got. Unless there's any questions.
All right. Thank you again, Ethan. Awesome, as always. Yeah. Okay. So I think with that, that ends all of our public comment. We have executive reports up next. Justine.
Hi. So I'll share my screen. Okay. So some updates, and I kind of made the report brief and quick because I know we had that presentation. So again, we sent out a campus-wide communication about this. The Callisto event is this Wednesday from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Shout out to the Student Life Committee and Ella. They're working on finalizing the dates and times to provide shuttles for students from campus to the Regional Transport Center and the Hancock International Airport for when students are traveling home for the upcoming break. We don't necessarily have to vote on this because money was allotted for this in the SA operating budget. So future communications about that are going out soon once the Onondaga Coach Company representative gets back to us finalizing that. So Multicultural Week, there was a close on that. So shout out to Diversity Affairs Committee and Taylor and Candace for the amazing work they've done. All the events were really great. And yeah, shout out to Community Engagement, Adriana and Brittany, the nonprofit internship fair is coming up. And that's really exciting. I know they've been working really hard to get a lot of organizations on that. So that's really, really exciting. I have a bill that I want to briefly introduce, but before I do that, Ryan, did you want to add anything?
No, this week was pretty much work with the Callisto initiative, and that was what ate up a lot of our time. So.
Yep. So the bill, basically, for those who aren't familiar, the source is the Syracuse Office of Undergraduate Research and Creative Engagement. It's really awesome. Basically, you can apply for a research grant of up to $5,000, and it funds either your research or a creative project that you have. And it started around like 2 years ago. And not a lot of people know about it because it's fairly new, but it's a really awesome office. But basically today we're here to discuss this bill, and I'll just go ahead and read it so you know what it's about. So whereas before the source was established in spring 2019, SA led the way by providing summer research grants to students. These were funded jointly by SA, the Provost's Office, and the Office of Research. For the past 2 years, sources administered these grants as a part of the larger application cycle. In both 2019 and 2020, the source funded 16 students for Student Association summer grants of $2,800 each. The SA financial contribution was $15,000, with the Provost's Office and Office of Research also continuing their portions of the funds. So therefore be it resolved, SA grants the source $15,000 to continue this important partnership and to promote undergraduate research on our campus. If passed by Assembly, this bill shall take effect immediately. So this is pretty straightforward. What this is just continuing a partnership that we've already had with the source office. I think the one thing that I would like to do a little differently is because I know Kate Hansen, the director of the source, we could in order to both raise awareness about the source and essay. One of the things that I was thinking we could do and I could work with PR on is like maybe post like once or twice like about a student who received an essay summer grant and like they're doing really cool work with that, because I know a lot of the research projects and creative engagement that source grant recipients do are pretty cool and worth highlighting and celebrating. So it's a way to kind of celebrate student work and raise awareness about the cool work source does, as well as ways essay helps students. But yeah, are there any questions about this bill? We are just introducing it right now. We're not voting on it tonight, but. Or were there any questions about the report?
Amanda, no, this was not on the agenda. This was in Justine's report.
All right, I think there's no other questions. To find this document, it's in the drive. It's under 64th session drafts.
I'm going to motion to refer this to the Academic Affairs Committee. And I think the summer grant has, at least when I was on Academic Affairs, it was an Academic Affairs initiative. And I think that this would be a great project for that committee to work on.
Cool.
Is there a second? Or actually, I'm kind of unfamiliar with motioning through that. Is this just a voice vote?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Is there a second?
I assume second.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, Academic Affairs, it's all yours. All right, cool. Justine, is that everything you had?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Josh.
Hey everyone. Same old. I bet you are all feeling the crunch of the end of the semester. I know I am pretty crazy, so I hope you are all doing what you need to get through it. Focus on yourselves. It's the most important thing. As for AddUp and ORC, AddUp still waiting on, I believe, 4 people to email me back about audits, and then I'll move on to auditing cabinet. I think I said this last week, but I'll repeat it again. Even if you weren't selected for auditing, but you still have feedback that you'd like to give about Monday meetings, committee meetings, or just general essay operations, please reach out to me. I, as part of the audit process, usually put together some kind of just general feedback where it's not, I don't ever say like, oh, this person said this, but general feedback, so that way, leaders within the organization can adapt and do better for you guys. So feel free to shoot me a text or an email if you've got anything. Organizational review, Sunday classes this week, so I was unable to meet, but we're really excited. We just added Vinny and Yasmin to the team. Excited to have you guys working on this. We are going to keep brainstorming, build out the executive and judicial branches, and put together something throughout the winter, so that way when we come back in January, you guys should be able to look it over and approve it. Hopefully before that meeting, we'll be able to give you guys a pretty detailed rundown of everything that's in it, so you will come in prepared. But yeah, that's about all from me. Love you guys. Keep up the good work.
Great. Julio.
Hey everyone, again, I do not have a report today because there's no budgets. Well, first of all, I hope everyone's doing well. But again, we have no budget this past Friday. I know the deadlines for semester allocations were due this past Friday at 5, so you guys are probably always estimated budgets. But I will not be bringing up those budgets until next Monday. The finance board and I will be deliberating those budgets this upcoming Friday and Saturday, and I will have basically most of the budgets, well, all of the budgets ready to vote on Monday. And that's basically it for me. Again, you guys know special program is over, so now we're just approving budgets for the spring semester. You guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or ask now, but that's basically it for me.
All right, awesome. Thank you. So next up, we have 2 articles of old business regarding Callisto. The first one being the CART and ASL for the launch event. Justine, if you want to present those.
Unmute. Hi. So yeah, just again, it's fairly straightforward. Basically, these are the total estimated costs for CART and ASL, $240. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I'm thinking we're gonna package the 2 bills and then pass them by voice vote after you present the next one.
Okay. That actually makes, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so again, resolution in support of Callisto. I'm not gonna read over it again. Long story short, it's a nonprofit. It's meant to support survivors. It has unique features that some of the existing resources don't. Many students support it, have provided quotes in support of it. Yeah. Are there any questions?
Just real quick, I want to give Assembly a little bit of context. We've been working, or Justine, Ryan, and Kaylee have been working really hard on Callisto for months now. The last couple of weeks, we've been working with administrators just to ensure that we are able to be doing this. There was a little pushback initially. We're good to go in terms of we have the power to do this. And I'm glad that we are able to offer another resource for students and for survivors. The reason why the university initially brought this up to us, that they were concerned about it, was members of the Title IX office and the Sexual Violence and Assault Relationship Task Force. I don't know if that's exactly what it's called, but that group, they had a couple issues with the service itself. We made very clear to the administration that these are issues that should have been brought up to us. If they had concerns, they should have talked to us when we started talking to them this summer. And it was frustrating to get it, right as we're ready to launch, that now they have concerns. That was definitely frustrating. I do believe that the university really heard us when we said that, how can we work with you if we don't feel like you were working with us in good faith, where when we bring things to your attention, you're actually taking them seriously and, working with us. That was, I think, the most important point that came out of that, out of those meetings, and a very important point for this administration to hear. However, that does not mean that their concerns are invalid. And it's something that we've asked them to provide a report to us of what exactly they are concerned about. So that way we can work with Callisto to change, update the service. So that way, the people who do this work 24/7, they know a lot about it. And so I want to make sure that they say that it is going to be the best thing for students as well. Mostly, I just wanted to include that context for you guys as we talk about this, that there are concerns from the administration that Callisto, I believe they have certain issues in terms of privacy and data and making sure that the language was trauma informed. I know these are things that Justine and Ryan have been working on for months, and they have worked with Callisto to ensure that these issues aren't issues, to ensure that students are protected and safe. But still, those were things that were brought up nonetheless, and I wanted to make sure you guys could discuss if you felt that it was necessary to discuss. Yeah, I think that's basically that.
Okay. Are there any points of discussion based on that or anything else from the bill? If not, I will be entertaining a motion to package the bills.
Motion to pack.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, the bills are packaged. Is there a motion to pass the package?
Motion to pass the package.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any opposed to passing the package? Any abstaining? Please type abstains in the chat or opposition in the chat. If not, then we
Is
will.
this playing out loud?
If not, then we will be passing. I am not seeing anything in the chat, so the package is passed. The bills are passed. Congratulations. All right, awesome. And with that, that was the last thing on the agenda for tonight. I hope everyone is doing very well. I hope everyone really enjoys the rest of their night. Can we get a closing roll from Morgan?
Yeah, we are all good.
All right, awesome. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? All right, have a great night.
Okay, bye. Bye. Bye.
Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Sweet dreams.
Night.